After nearly 20% of ballot boxes were counted in the country's national election on Sunday, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan appeared to be in a commanding lead, according to the official Turkish news agency. According to Anadolu Agency, Erdogan received 55% of the vote, while Kemal Kilicdaroglu, the leader of the main opposition, received 39%. According to opinion polls, the increasingly authoritarian Erdogan started his re-election campaign trailing a rival for the first time. The early results should be considered preliminary, said Faik Oztrak, a spokesman for Kilicdaroglu's center-left party, adding that the picture is extremely positive for the opposition. Since 2003, Erdogan has been the prime minister or president of Turkey. According to pre-election polling, he was likely to face the most difficult re-election campaign of his 20 years as president of the NATO member state, which has recently struggled with economic unrest and the erosion of democratic checks and balances. After 9 hours of voting, the national election that could give Erdogan, 69, another 5-year term or force him out of office in favor of Kilicdaroglu, who ran on a platform of returning Turkey to a more democratic path, closed in the late afternoon. A runoff election will be held on May 28 to decide the winner if no candidate receives more than 50% of the vote. Additionally, lawmakers were chosen to serve in Turkey's 600-seat parliament, which Erdogan's executive presidency greatly reduced. If Erdogan's political alliance triumphs, he might be able to exercise his power virtually unchecked. If it prevails in both the presidential and parliamentary elections, the opposition has pledged to convert Turkey's political system back to a parliamentary democracy. The 74-year-old candidate of a 6-party opposition alliance, Kilicdaroglu, had a slight advantage in pre-election polls. The Republican People's Party, or CHP, is led by him and is pro-secular and center-left. The elections, which take place in the year the nation will mark the centenary of its establishment as a republic, a modern, secular state born on the ashes of the Russian Revolution, had more than 64 million eligible voters, including 3.4 million overseas voters. Turkey consistently has high voter turnout, which reflects citizens' enduring faith in democratic elections. Erdogan has, however, seen the repression of free speech and assembly, and Turkey is currently experiencing a severe cost of living crisis, which critics attribute to the government's poor handling of the economy. Contrary to conventional economic theory, the president thinks low interest rates can control inflation, and he pressured the central bank to support this idea. The most recent official statistics put inflation at around 44%, down from around 86%, but unofficial experts think prices are still rising much more quickly. The opposition used the onion as a campaign symbol to raise awareness of the price of vegetables. Turkey is also still feeling the effects of a devastating earthquake that struck 11 southern provinces in February and left more than 50,000 people dead in unstable structures. Erdogan's administration has come under fire for its slow and ineffective response to the disaster, as well as for the lax enforcement of building regulations that increased the number of fatalities and suffering. The elections were closely watched internationally as a test of a united opposition's capacity to unseat a leader who has virtually all state power concentrated in his hands. Erdogan escaped a military takeover attempt in 2016 that he attributed to adherents of a former ally, cleric Fethullah Gulen, based in the United States. The attempt led to a widespread purge of Gulen's supporters and detractors, including pro-Kurdish politicians, for alleged affiliations with terrorist organizations. Erdogan's attempt to win over voters in this election was aided by the use of state resources and his tyrannical control of the media. He claimed that the opposition supported LGBTQ rights, which he claimed threatened traditional family values in the largely Muslim country, and that they were drunkards, conspiring with terrorists, and terrorists. He has raised wages and pensions, subsidized electricity and gas bills, and promoted domestic Turkish defense and infrastructure projects in an effort to win support from the country's hard-hit citizens due to inflation. Additionally, he expanded the political coalition of the Justice and Development Party, or AKP, his party in power, to include 2 nationalist parties, a tiny leftist party, and 2 minor Islamist parties. The 2017 referendum that narrowly approved an executive presidential system resulted in Kilicdaroglu's 6-party nation alliance making a promise to abolish it. The opposition coalition also pledged to undo Erdogan's suppression of free speech and other democratic advancements, as well as to reinstate the independence of the judiciary and the central bank. A small Islamist party, the Nationalist Good Party, which is led by the former Interior Minister Meral Akşener, and 2 AKP splinter groups, one led by the former Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu and the other by the former Finance Minister Ali Babacan, are also members of the alliance. Kilicdaroglu is being supported in the presidential contest by the main Kurdish political party in the nation, which is currently Turkey's second-largest opposition force. Recent years have seen arrests and legal action against the party's leaders by Erdogan's administration. Many voters at polling places struggled to fold large ballot papers which featured 24 political parties vying for seats in parliament and fit them into envelopes with the presidential ballot. It is crucial for Turkey. Nikati Aktuna, an Ankara voter, said it was vital for the populace. For the past 60 years, I have cast ballots. This election is the most significant one I can recall seeing. The Supreme Electoral Board's Ahmet Yener reported that no negative incidents were reported following the voting's conclusion. Democracy has been sorely missed by all of us. After casting his ballot at a school in Ankara, where his supporters chanted President Kilicdaroglu, Kilicdaroglu said, "We all missed being together. You will see that spring will arrive in this nation starting right now," he promised. Erdogan claimed that voting was proceeding without any problems, even in the area affected by the earthquake. Erdogan expressed his hope for a better future for his country, the nation, and the Turkish democracy after the results of the evening's count. Sinan Ogun, a former academic who is supported by an anti-immigrant nationalist party, is another candidate for president. Muharrem Ince, a politician on the center-left, was a different candidate who withdrew on Thursday after experiencing a sharp decline in support. The nation's election board, however, ruled that his withdrawal was invalid and that his supporters' votes would be counted. If Erdogan lost, some people questioned whether he would cede power. In an interview with more than a dozen Turkish broadcasters on Friday, Erdogan stated that he won his position of authority through democracy and that he would conduct himself accordingly. Concerns have been raised about voting in the 11 earthquake-affected provinces, where nearly 9 million people were eligible to vote. Only 133,000 people have registered to vote in their new provinces after moving out of the earthquake zone, which is home to about 3 million people. Bus transportation for voters was planned by political parties and non-governmental organizations, but it was unclear how many returned. Many earthquake survivors cast their ballots at impromptu polling places set up in schoolyards. Ramazan Ake arrived early at his polling place in the earthquake-stricken city of Diyarbakir to cast his ballot. "It will be a democratic election, God willing," he said. "May it be good for our nation, you say."